Hello, everybody, and welcome once again to the UnLearnT podcast. I'm your host, Ruth Abigail, aka RA.
What's up, friends? It's your girl, Jaquita.
This is the podcast that's helping you gain the courage to change your mind so that you can experience more freedom. And we're back.
We are back, friends.
Did we leave?
They've been, we just finished our Millennials in Crisis series.
We did.
Okay, so that was heavy. Okay, we came at y'all heavy, a lot. Listen, so we gonna lighten it up a little bit.
We gonna lighten it up.
Okay, because that crisis stuff before the storm.
Yeah.
During the storm. After the storm, but hopefully, there was a lot of good tips in there. So hopefully,
important. I feel like it was an important thing to get out. You know what I mean? Before we roll into the summertime, right?
With everything going on, y'all, put it in your back pocket.
Yeah.
Okay, put it in your back pocket because we don't know what's coming.
Yeah, I mean,
so
we did that, and now we're rolling into summer. And
summertime, summertime.
Yeah, hey, yes, yeah, okay.
Ruth was sat there for a moment debating if she was gonna say something about my singing.
No,
that's what just happened.
I really was.
That's what just happened. She was just like, "What did I tell you about singing on air?"
At this time, it's not true because I actually was sitting there like, am I gonna join in? Because I really don't know what she's doing. And also, so yeah, okay.
How did you not know what I was doing? What kind of millennial are you?
I just put myself on blast. Look, I'm not saying I'm the best millennial. I definitely missed some things. Okay, we could talk about that another day, another time.
Me and Ruth Abigail had different upbringings. Okay,
we did.
And that's what makes us work. Anywho,
absolutely. So, what are we doing? What are we talking about, Quita?
Listen, friends. Okay, so this new summertime series, we thought we would lighten it up a little bit for y'all. And we're going to be breaking down some of our favorite movies from different genres. And not just the movies that we love, but the movies that we really had to unlearn.
Absolutely.
Okay. So today is a cult classic.
Cult classic.
If you know, you know. All right, it's on everybody's black card list. Like, if you ain't watched this one,
that's facts.
Can you indeed still have your black card? Can you still be part of the culture, be part of the community? Okay, we're talking about one of my faves.
So before you do it, though, I'm sorry, I mean, like, I didn't want to do it because I wanted, we had talked about doing this little intro, and I wanted to do.
Oh my gosh, I really thought you forgot.
I didn't. I had to pull it up. So before she says it, y'all, this is so this is so close to Jaquita's heart that she she decided as a full-grown 28-year-old to write an essay on the paper on the movie. I'm gonna read an excerpt.
Okay.
This essay.
Wait a minute, because I feel like I should provide some context. Never mind, that'll make it worse. Just read it. Just read it.
So I'm gonna read a little bit and then I'm gonna end it. So I'm not reading it in order. I'm just gonna read a couple of lines and I'm gonna end it on my favorite line. Okay, here we go. All right. This movie is not about two people who live next door that fall in love. This movie is about options. It's the choices we have to make and who we are about who we are and what we want. A lot of us don't want what our parents had, even if they actually had something good. We grew up with so many judgments about what's right and wrong, and most of those times they don't get corrected until we have to live it out. Now, this is my favorite line. Quincy was fully active on the court and in the love arena. Seen through the first half of the film with many girls, Quincy had no sacrifices to make. He could have love and basketball.
Yeah. I really hate you so much right now. I really, I'm sorry. I don't like using the word hate, but I greatly dislike you in this moment.
First of all, it wasn't until we were preparing for this episode that I knew that this existed. And when I tell you the joy in my spirit that happened to know that this jewel of an essay was out there in the world, I was like, we need to give people some of this essay.
let
Excellent
me
writing. Excellent writing.
listen, UnLearnT family, okay? You got to know how much I love you. Okay, you got to know how much I value this community
Oh,
that I would even offer up,
absolutely.
this thing that probably me and maybe two other people
Absolutely.
knew about. Okay? It was not supposed to be a public thing. But here we are. Listen, everybody, we're talking today about the one, the only Love and
And
Basketball,
basketball,
okay?
guys. Loving
Love and
basketball.
Basketball. One of the best soundtracks
Oh,
out there.
when I was
Like, right?
rewatched it, I just rewatched it. I was like, yo, they got some good music on here, yo.
Banging soundtrack. Listen, Sanaa Lathan, Omar Epps came in, did their thing for the culture. Now listen, growing up, we all loved this movie, okay? I never remember hearing anything
I
negative about Love and
no,
Basketball growing up.
no, no.
All I remember is I was like, I just, I gotta play a man for his heart. Like,
Oh God.
but when it's been, if you are on the interwebs at all, if you're on Instagram, people have gone back. All right, they have reviewed the lessons, the themes of the movie, and I feel like we as a culture have unlearned this entire movie.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
I do think we have to give it some credit though,
Uh,
for the time period that it was written in and for the things that we thought at the moment. Listen, still a great movie. Y'all not finna take my movie out the queue. You know what I'm
the
saying? Like, I'm still gonna watch it.
movie was great. The movie was great.
Yeah,
I
but very toxic. Very
it was
toxic. Just
toxic.
just want to be clear.
It was toxic for a mature person. Now, you know what I'm saying? Like I feel like, and I'm not let me clean that up a bit. Not saying that it wasn't toxic, but like in your it like in a less mature mindset, it's like no, like you could probably identify with a lot of those feelings pretty close. I could have.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
there's a lot of, and so I think that as because we grew up with it, so we saw it when we were teenagers, or like so we were kind of in that mode. However, once you start to live life a little bit and realize it don't really work that way, and like
Mm-mm.
understand the nuances of life and relationships and all this stuff, but you might have to. I think we had to grow up a little bit to get it. Like in the
Yeah.
moment it didn't feel, it felt closer to home. But you get
But yeah.
mature.
And I think we also have to acknowledge that we just as people, as a community, have learned so much more about relationships, right? The relationships that we're trying to build today are not the relationships that our grandparents had. It's not the relationships that our parents' generations had. Every generation has added to the wisdom of what it takes to be in a great relationship, in a great loving relationship. And so we really can't go back and pull movies from 20, 25 years ago and fault them for how they portrayed relationships,
Correct.
because I think one thing that I think we'll talk about as we go through this series is that oftentimes the art that's expressed is an expression of what's in the culture at that time period,
Yeah.
right? And so it's almost like you opened up a time capsule and you're upset that it don't look like today. And it's like, listen, no,
It's
that
for a
that was a
particular
reflection.
audience, though. It's for a particular audience. It's for a young, like that was marketed to us who were young. It ain't marketed to us now.
That movie was not marketed toward us at the time we were in, just to be
So
clear. That
now
movie was marketed toward the 20-year-olds of the
that's what
day,
I'm saying.
of that time
That's
period.
what I'm saying. When did it come out? What year did it come out?
Now, Ruth, we middle adults, but we ain't that old.
It came out when 2000.
2000.
Okay, we were in eighth grade. So what I'm saying is,
It wasn't marketed for us.
no, those types of movies, those movies were marketed for. They're marketed for teenagers. Those types of movies were marketed for, like, we were in that age group. I'm saying
It was not.
we watched it, and they're saying, like, even if it, like, yeah, like, okay, teenage and maybe like 21, 22. Like it wasn't it wasn't supposed to be much further than that.
Isn't that kind of nefarious though? Like when you think about them making these movies with, 13 and 14-year-olds in mind.
That's what they
Like,
did.
yeah, like we were being groomed. But
It's the
anyways,
industry.
nevertheless, watch, hey, middle adults with children, go check what your kids is watching.
For real.
Okay, because the media is trying to groom them. Okay, and we don't. Love and basketball jacked up my whole relationship history. Okay, which we'll talk about in a minute. But really, really pay attention to what they're watching
Yeah.
because we were definitely 13 watching this.
That's
And
my point. I think that the mindset of the market and the crowd that was watching this would have seen it as something to aspire to because you were in a mindset where you wouldn't have
mm,
known anything better. And so now that we've grown up and lived a little life and gotten more mature, we look back and it's like, oh no, that was crazy. And that,
bananas.
and other movies that came out. But like, so I just think to your point, we got to give it credit for where it's due, for what it's due, but also recognize that most of us that are doing the criticizing were the ones that was marketed to in an immature state. Now
Yeah.
we've grown up and
But
we see differently.
yeah, and it's literally something that we lived out and we was like, "Oh, that was trash."
Yeah,
And a lot of our stories did not end up like Monica and
and
Quincy.
won't.
Okay? And that's what I think that's why people are mad now cuz they looking at their life and they're like, I stood by that man from 20 years ago, derailed my whole future trying to get him and it didn't work out. Like Monica got her man, Monica McCall. What was her name?
Oh,
Uh,
I don't remember, but yes,
anyways, his name
yes,
was Quincy McCall.
right.
Yeah, she got her man and her career
That's
and her child. Like she got the whole package off of some tomfoolery. But anyways, we'll get there. We'll get there. We'll get there.
We'll get there. So, but I do think we can start. So if you've seen the movie, if you haven't seen the movie, because let's face it, there's some people out here who have not seen the movie. That's okay. Or you haven't seen
And I want you, if you have not seen this movie, I'd love for you to DM me. I'd like to have a one-on-one conversation with you
it. There's
to figure out, what else you
we
missed.
are not we are not here to judge Jaquita. If the people didn't see the movie, they didn't see the movie. So
Sorry, y'all. This is one of my faves.
so the movie's broken up. It is about love and basketball. It is about a couple who grow up. Well, it's about a couple that eventually become a couple that start off as best friends, neighbors, as kids. They grow up together. They both play
They were
basketball.
frenemies.
They were, they were very competitive. They both played basketball. In this case, the girl was like more passionate about basketball than the boy. Girl's name is Monica. Boy's name is Quincy. And so they were in a now I'm sorry, you threw me off with your face. You don't think she was more passionate?
Come back to me.
What? Okay.
I just would not have termed it like that. I think. I mean, we can talk about it in the first one.
Comment.
I don't know. That's not how I would have described it. I think that's something that he discovered later. I don't think that that's how we entered into the movie with him less passionate than her about basketball. Her identity was so wrapped up in it. But anyways, that's why I didn't want to say nothing because it's
All right. So you have two people and two kids, and they're very they love basketball. They're really competitive. They are kind of frenemies, and they grow up together. And so the movie is actually broken up into 4 different quarters. All right. So it kind of goes through their life from kids to adults and tracks their relationships individually and together. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna each take one of those quarters, talk a little bit about like what happens in it, and then pull out the thing that we think is important to unlearn um from each one of those. And so we're gonna start with quarter one, right? And I think, and Quita, kind of you alluded to it when you were saying, when you alluded to it in your earlier comments, like this idea of she ended up getting it all, right? It was like you got, you got the
Mhm.
man, you got your dream, you got your baby, you got everything. And throughout the entire movie, starting from the beginning, there was this tension with I I want the I want to play ball. I want the career. I want the
I'm a baller.
I'm a
She says that so many
ball
times.
player, right? So
Yeah.
it's like I want to do that. And there was also this tension with growing up with a mom who was very much the opposite of that, right? And so
Mhm.
she's grown up in a house where she has these dreams, but they're not supported by her mother figure who would rather her wear dresses and, put on
Do
makeup and be more girly than she
like
wants
and
to
like her older
and like
sister
her
as
older
well.
sister, right? So
Mhm.
I think that and I say this, I could identify very, very much with this character.
Take your time here, Ruth.
I was not interested at all in like any of the stuff that my mom wanted me to be interested in. Just like Monica, I wanted to play sports. I wanted to wear shorts, t-shirts. I wanted to I wanted to do what the boys did. I just felt like they had it easier and I didn't have to work as hard and I could have more fun. And I just didn't understand why I had to do this other stuff, right? And so I had tension with my mom in that. I mean, there was a moment I think there was some dance and I needed a dress. And we went to the store to get one. And we both walked out the store crying because we just could not get it together. I was upset about what I had to wear. She didn't want, she didn't like that I was upset. She was mad about all that. So it was just a whole thing. So I totally get um where this character was coming from. And I also think that one of the most important things that we have that I had to unlearn, it was like I grew up thinking it had to be either or, right? That I
Mm-mm.
had to either follow my dream, if you will, like as a child, right? Doing the things I want to do, um, doing the activities I wanted to do, or I had to do what my mom wanted me to do, right? Which was be something I didn't really
Oh.
want to be. And
Yeah.
so it was hard, but I think the thing that as I grew up and understood is that no, like it's not an either or, it's a both and. Like there is a Ruth Abigail that exists in all of this world, right? It
Mhm.
doesn't have you don't have to choose. And so I just have to find myself in it. And I think that the movie it tracks that, right? With her is
Yeah.
finding her full self and understanding it doesn't have to be either or. I could be my full self and it shows a pretty picture of the end of that story, although it is not that simple, right?
Yeah.
And so we can get there when we get there. But I think that's one of the things we have that we can unlearn from that is like it's not an either or situation. Like your who you are is who you are, and that's going to
Mhm.
look different in different seasons because with different roles in your life different passions come to play. And so you don't it's not a thing we have to pick. I have to be this. No, you don't.
Yeah.
Like you're more complex than that.
But I think, the movie spends so much of kind of like that first quarter of the movie, like really like laying out the different gender roles and representations that
Yeah.
are there. And like you have like, her mom who's cute and prissy and ironing clothes
Yep.
and she's usually in the kitchen in the movie or got something in her hands that she's doing,
Or doing something
like
for
she
her dad specifically.
Yes, like, and so it is very much a I serve
Hmm.
your father, I'm trying to raise y'all up to be this type of woman. And then you have Quincy's mom who did the fake and bake,
Right.
it was like, I'm just gonna go buy me a cake and living a little posh
Yep.
over here with my big baller husband,
Yep.
in the beginning of the movie. We'll get to the rest. I know y'all that know the movie, like, we getting there, right? And so, like there's just this display of what does it mean to be a woman? Like, what does it mean to be feminine? And I think that for me growing up, that was definitely something that I had to unlearn
Yeah.
because I was 5'11".
Mm,
Luckily, I had all male friends. And from 8th grade and up, I was surrounded by guys. Luckily, they hit growth spurts because I was really worried in the 8th grade. I was like, all right, I'm 5'10" and y'all are like 5'6", please. And then one summer
yeah.
they shot up and I was like, we're gonna be all right. We're gonna be okay. But I struggle with words like, don't be intimidating,
Mm,
and don't be overbearing, and don't have too much personality. Because in my mind, being feminine meant being hidden.
mm,
It meant being
mm,
small, and it meant being just kind of like squished down, like a squished down version of myself. And I think the thing that Monica learned that I had to also learn was that I could be all of the different pieces of myself
right.
and still be great at my great thing. She felt like she had, in order to be a ball player, I'm a ball player. She says
She
that
says
so
that
many
a lot.
times in the
She says
movie.
that a lot.
And it's like, girl, chillax,
Yep.
you know. But even also when we were in high school, like you kind of get sequestered into like certain little sects,
Yeah.
like
Yes.
sex,
We got
XECTS.
it. Yeah. There
Okay,
you go.
I
You
really
got it.
felt like I needed to
That's okay.
spell that out for the saints.
Well done.
Okay,
Well done.
um, but like you got like your athletes, you got your band people, you got your nerds, you got your the people who just kind of hang out in the hall. Like you have just different groups of people. And so learning how to be identified outside of a group,
Yeah.
I think, are outside of like this prescribed identity,
Yeah.
I think is something that we all have to unlearn.
That a lot of times, not just your family or the people closest to you, but society will put on you,
Hmm.
and I think it's something that, like you said, we all go through, and we do have to you grow you have a choice. You can grow deeper into that kind of singularity, or you can grow and learn more about who you are and kind of grow beyond that. And
Yeah.
so I think yeah. Yeah. All right.
All right, I'm going to transition to the next one by kind of pulling a theme from the beginning that goes into the second one. Sorry, I'm adding something real quick. But I think that aesthetics is such a huge part of this movie, like the way
Mhm.
that we look. It was the way her hair was done, or the way what she was wearing, or how she showed up, that was really like, oh, you don't dress up like, Gabrielle Union's character,
Right.
or you're not putting yourself out there in a certain way. And I think that by the time we get to the second quarter, like that is something that like she's really like kind of battling with, like her hair,
Yeah.
right? Like I'm a ball player, she a ball player, so she got the cornrow, she got
Right.
the straight
Right.
backs.
Right. Mhm.
Like she like, hey Lena, put them straight backs in, I got the game tonight, and then when she gets to the point where it's okay, now I got to get ready to go to the dance, she has to find a new aesthetic to fit kind of this version of herself that wants to date and that wants to be seen and recognized and celebrated by men and by other women. And I think that when we think about just like the aesthetics of how we show up, like a lot of
Mm.
times we want to show up in a certain way, and sometimes we try to show up in a way that helps us to be more easily accepted.
Yeah.
So, anyways, that just hit me. But by the time we get to quarter two, all right, we're now like senior year high school, right? Quincy's doing his thing. He like the big ball player. His daddy is a famous ball player. So, Quincy comes in and he's like that guy.
Yeah.
Like he got press conferences. Like, where's Quincy McCall going? Everybody want to know what he gonna do, where he gonna go, right? And Monica's fighting for her life
Yes.
out here. She is barely getting seen by recruiters. And I think the thing that stands out the most is that I'm a ball player. Like every time she says that, oh yeah, the little cheerleaders in the stands saying, UGLY, you ain't got no alibi,
You
you
ugly.
ugly. Yeah, yeah, you ugly. I love that. Listen, these cheerleaders, side note, these cheerleaders now with the chants in the stand, they be hitting so hard. Shout out to the I like the little knuck if you buck cheer
Yeah. Yeah.
thing we got going on. But anyways, Monica fighting for her life out there. Every point, every bit of recognition, she's good. You can tell that her team is leaning on her, but she got a little bit of anger issue. And it's not she's not angry because of basketball, but she doesn't realize that yet. Like she doesn't realize that like she's carrying these themes of anger, and it comes out later in the movie where she like goes off on her mom about something, like she's angry because she doesn't feel accepted, but she hasn't put all this together. She's
Right.
getting it all out. Everything that she has, she's getting out in the game. But it's also causing her not to get recruited because every time, she faces a hard situation, she's blowing up.
Yeah.
And so Quincy, on a wonderful ride home where the man tells her that, who you taking to the dance, the homecoming dance, Spalding, which was disrespectful.
Disrespectful.
Okay. It was
Disrespectful.
disrespectful. It was very disrespectful. But he basically tells her, like, you're not gonna get recruited because of your attitude.
Yeah.
And she
Goes off.
goes back, goes off, goes literally just like proves his point.
Yeah.
Is like reminding him of some scar hitting him. Like she is upset about it. But it's like, for the things, I think the thing that I had to unlearn about that is that a lot of times we think that we can get to the places we're aiming for based off of our gift and off of our talent.
Yeah.
But if you don't have the character
That's right.
that can carry the weight of what your ambition is, your ambition will fall through every time.
That's right.
Right? And so she gets in these games, she gets to the most important game of her career, of her high school career, and she blows up.
Yep.
Right? And loses her head, and it causes her to lose the game.
Yeah.
I mean, and so I think that was something that I really had to unlearn in my 20s, because I was trying to lead with what I thought I was good at, or what I thought would be the thing that would get me to the next level. And I had to unlearn that success is not dependent on what I can do. Success is dependent on who I'm willing to become.
Yes. And I think her attitude, again, like you said, reflected what was really going on inside of her. And anytime like, and I think this is something that I've learned as a leader, is you learn to look at people, you learn to look past the gifts of people when you're a leader, right?
Yes.
And so for those of you that are leaders, or those of you that are under particular leadership, particularly those that are under leadership, that you might respect, or you have leaders that you look up to, understand that the good leaders, of which I personally aspire to be, right? They look past your gift. I really try to tell my team that a lot, is, I know like what you're capable of, and what you can do. It's like, that's great. Like but I am more concerned about your character. I'm more concerned about your attitude. I'm more concerned about things I can't teach you. Honestly, when you walk into a space, skills and gifts, you can teach that. Now, you may not ever be the best at a thing, but what really makes people thrive at what they do is not their gift. It is their character, because it's going to take high character, high integrity. It's going to take an ability to control your emotions, to move through things consistently and with longevity. And at the end of the day, a leader wants to know that you can move through difficult times. That's if every time a hard time comes up and I got to worry about how you going to be, I don't want you on my team. I don't want you on my team. I don't have time for that. Right. And so I think, and so as people who are under leadership, or look to or aspire to be leaders, like, hey, in any capacity, like, you being concerned about how somebody is gonna respond when a hard moment comes is not something you want on your back, because you got a million other things to do, and to pay attention to, and a million decisions to make. And so if you can take that off of the plate of your leader by saying, I'm gonna make sure that my spirit, my soul is right, so that when things do come up that are hard and challenging, and they will, that
Mhm.
I don't put that burden on the person that's leading to have to manage that about me.
Yeah.
That is a gift to people who are leaders.
Listen, one, that's such a great leadership tip, hashtag, okay, because I do think that as we are growing in our leadership, that was something that I would tell my team every time is my job, you're already good at what you do. If I left you alone and I wasn't here, you would still be good at what you do. That is what I hired good people and I knew that they would be good at what they did. My job was I'm always developing you for the room you're going to sit in
Yeah.
next, not the thing you're going to do next. I'm developing you to be able to sit in the next room, in the higher room. I want to give you insight into what it takes to sit at the next level. And so in every conversation that I had and in every moment that I had to impart, my mind was focused on how can I build them to be to be in the room that they're going to
Yeah.
next. So it wasn't, oh man, you're just so amazing at what you're doing. You're so great. And absolutely that. Like you have to be able to affirm. Like you can't lead from a place of you're never good enough,
No,
Like you
no.
you have to affirm what they have so that because that's helping them to build their toolkit, right? I needed to be affirmed in my ability to speak and energize a room and to bring people together and build community. I needed to be affirmed in that, but I also needed to be built up to supervise, which was a whole different beast,
Mhm.
right? Now I'm having to build up to be an administrator,
Mhm.
which is not my
Uh-huh.
forte. But as a leader, it has been a gift to both receive and to give out the gift of becoming,
Yeah.
like let me help you become,
Yeah.
rather than celebrating what you have. And I think by the time we get to the next quarter, I think Monica really started to understand that when she got to a place that was bigger than where she was, and she had to grow.
Yeah. And I think that's so moving into the third quarter is when they go to college, right? And to what you said, Quita, the affirmation piece, if those of you that have been on a sports team, you know, you you got if a great coach is going to coach you and coach the job of the coach is not to always, let me say it like this. Her her affirmation was getting on the team. Like that
Hmm.
was your affirmation. Like you're here. And so what she wanted was praise, which is two different things, right? She
Talk
wanted
about it.
praise for all the things. She wanted the accolades, she wanted the applauses. Her affirmation that you're good enough was because you here. Now I got to coach you. And coaches, the best coaches pull out things you didn't know you had, right? It's not them praising you for what you know you have. It's pulling stuff out. And anytime somebody pulls things out, it can be kind of tough. So she went through that, right? And her coach was riding her. And as she was feeling herself, her coach was like, okay, there's a scene, right? Where she in practice, where she shoots, right? And she makes this, they're scrimmaging, and she shoots and she makes a three. And she stands there feeling herself, and her man goes back and scores because she wasn't defending him. And so coach blows the whistle. It
She was
says,
upset.
your man just scored. And she looked at her crazy. And then the coach was like, show me again. So she made her put her hand up there. Show me again, since you like it so much. And so she made her stand over there with her little pose in front of her whole team. And she was humiliated because you didn't understand that you need coaching. You don't need praise. You need coaching.
Yo, listen. So I think something that I teach all the time is that as you are trying to go from one level to the other, is that you need mentorship slash coaching. And mentors deal with potential. They don't deal with greatness.
Yeah.
Like they are not there to celebrate
Right.
and give room for your greatness. They are there to cultivate and to dig out everything that threatens your potential.
Yeah.
And so they are constantly going to be on you about the things that I was like, if your mentor don't get on your nerves, if your mentor ain't bringing out the deep, dark, ugly stuff that's in there, you ain't got a good mentor.
Yeah.
You got an encourager.
Which
You have a supporter.
you need all of them.
Yeah,
You need
you
all of
need
them.
you need the whole squad,
Yeah.
but get you somebody, put people, and I think that that was something that I had to learn. I had to learn to appreciate it, right? Because I was like, Monica, I was like, get off my case, right? You brought me here, so you obviously think I'm good enough. Why you got so much to say? Like, leave me alone. You know, at every turn, she was pulling Monica forward.
Yes.
Monica, point guards lead from the front, not the back. You know, Monica had to run to the front. Monica, you know, like, and my absolute favorite line of the movie is after Monica finally has her breakthrough moment. You know, like she finally gets to the point where she like, you know, she started in the game because the other player broke her ankle, and now she's starting the game, has a good game, saves the game, you know, with a defensive block, not by shooting, by taking a hit, you know. And so, you know, she goes up to her coach, and finally that praise that she's been waiting for, like she finally has like this moment where the coach is like, you know, good game, way
Yeah.
the ball.
Yeah.
And she says, I thought you hated me.
Yeah.
And the coach says, do you think I go horse for a player with no potential?
Yes.
When I ignore you, that's when you
That's
worry.
when you worry.
That's when you worry, right? Because for every man, you can ask, especially like those that are closest to me, every person that I know that God has assigned to my life to pour into, I am like, hey, listen, I stay asking the Lord, what's next for them? Like what can I impart in them to get them to their next level? Because at no point do I want to get to a point. And I think this is not in the movie, but it's important. As a leader, if I want to pull you along, I have to make sure that I'm surrendered in those same areas of my life
For sure.
that I'm trying to pull you in. I can't just be like, I go horse because you got potential. And when somebody is recognizing what needs to be pulled in me, what needs to be developed in me, I don't surrender.
That's it.
And I have the same attitude you have. Right. And I'm sitting there like, you hired me, didn't you? You called me, didn't you? You know I'm good. If I have that attitude, the attitude that I have will ultimately reflect in my players, right? Because it goes from the head down, right? And so you can't be passionate about mentoring others and you don't want to be mentored
You
yourself
got it. Yes. You need
or coached,
every coach needs a coach, every mentor needs a mentor. Like that's
for
you
sure.
gotta have that. So we've been talking a lot about Monica, but the third quarter is also a very pivotal quarter for Quincy. Okay.
My Lord.
So Quincy,
Swear it got deep.
Quin- Quincy, you know, you remember he's his father is a professional basketball player, and he and his wife are going through some things. There
My
is
Lord.
a paternity test out there
My Lord.
for whether or not Quincy's dad, you know what I'm saying, stepped out, you know what I'm saying, had another child, right? And so Quincy finds out, and his dad is like, "No, son, you know that wasn't me. You have what you say? What he say? You had the balls to ask me that?
Yeah. Yeah.
you
I'm like, come on,
you
man.
gonna ask me that? You know?" And so he tells him that ain't me, man. Like, you know, I didn't do that. I would never do that. X, Y, Z. So then Quincy goes back home to his mom. Mom is sitting there, drunk, crying, and
In the dark by the
talk
pool.
about
Like
he like, "Mama, you all right?" And she said, you know, uh, uh, something. They get into it because he was like, "You mean you gon' believe that whatever he calls the girl, uh,
over.
oh pop?" And she said, you know, he said, "Don't you be telling me, you know, how you be telling me about all that shit about all these girls?" And she said, "I should have been telling your father that." So they went all sorts. I just watched this movie about
You
Chris
can tell
stuff.
Ruth just watched the movie.
So, so So they go through all of this. And so anyway, she gives him and throws the paternity test at him. He finds out Pop stepped out, had a kid.
My
Okay.
Lord.
So now, see, because Quincy was all about, I want to be just like my dad. I just want to be just like my dad. I want to be just like my dad. And so he finds out, and he's crushed. He's devastated, right? And so he and Monica have this moment, um, that where he really needed her to be there for him, and she's there, but also has to make sure she handles her responsibilities. And so,
Mm.
this
It's
is
love and basketball
okay.
now.
All right.
Okay.
Okay.
There's both.
Look at
Tension.
tension,
Huh?
the tension.
Yeah.
Can you feel it?
Yeah.
Can you feel it? Okay. So,
Mm-hmm.
this is what I think is important to unlearn from this quarter is that we have to unlearn that relationships will stay the way they started.
Hmm.
Relationships will very rarely stay the way they started.
Yeah.
Um, and so that is with him and his dad, with his dad and his mom,
Mm-hmm.
with he and Monica, right?
My
With
Lord.
Monica and basketball, right?
Get in there, Rue.
Okay. Right.
Get in there.
All of these relationships are going through transitions. And what Quincy
Mm.
could not handle is the transition Monica was having with her career in college. He couldn't
Yeah.
handle that. And she couldn't understand and didn't know how to support him in the transition of the relationship with he and his dad. Right. And
Mm.
so it affected their relationship, which
Yeah.
now is there's beginning a transition there because they're trying to figure out what how she's trying to figure out like how do I support at this time. By the way, they are dating at this point. All right. I don't know if we said that, but
We really
yeah,
skipped
we
over
did.
that because I really didn't want to hit that little bedroom
We'll
scene.
go off.
Okay, y'all done talked about it enough.
No. But
Okay, we know.
they're a full blown couple. They're together and all this stuff. And so she really didn't know how to be there for him. So anyway, you got to know like relationships rarely um stay how they start, and you have to know like okay, how it's important to understand how do I properly transition
With people.
people in
as
relationship.
as I'm transitioning myself, I think we would be remiss because I think the scene where they're in the bleachers
Mhm.
late at night, Monica's looking at the clock, Quincy's pouring his heart out about his dad. I think that's such a pivotal scene in the movie.
It's yeah.
That's kind of like the climax where it's like Monica is growing in basketball, but Quincy is like kind of coming down off of basketball because he's also starting to realize basketball and my pops were the same, right? And I think that we get to a point in our lives, especially in the transition from young adulthood to middle adulthood, where we start dropping things off because we realize that something in my life was not connected to my original design.
Yeah.
Something else got in my box because of an influence that I no longer am trusting, or that once the influence of that person is gone, am I still connected to this thing? And he's not only facing the breakup of his parents, he's also facing his breakup with basketball because of his breakup with his dad.
That's right.
And Monica, I think sometimes, he's sitting there and he's trying to express himself. But I think something that's important to note in relationships, we don't often feel the weight of what other people are really carrying.
Right.
In that moment, she has her own tension and she's carrying, he was great on the basketball court and celebrated in basketball. She's having to work for every inch of her respect, and she's right at her own critical turning point while he's at a turning point. And it's like they're turning in different directions.
Yep.
And so in that moment, they both had choices to make. And that was a moment where you can say what you want to say. And I know he could have called on the phone. They ain't have FaceTime back then.
Nope.
He could have went to her room. I don't really want to be around people. Sir, we're gonna have like a middle point could be found somewhere somehow, right? But I think that because neither one of them recognized or respected the moment that they were in, because they hit at the same time, they both mishandled each other.
Mm. 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 Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think one of the key points here is like, how one of the key questions to answer, and this this is kind of, you see the result of not doing this in the fourth quarter of the movie, is how do I prepare for a transition like that, because that's going to happen. Like, whatever
Mhm.
relationships you're in right now, whatever they
Yeah.
are, family, spouse, kids, whatever, like, the way they start isn't how they're going to stay. So what do I need to do? How do I need to transition to that? And I would say,
Yeah.
honestly, one thing, the most important thing, two things, is number one, expect it and communicate about it beforehand. You don't
Yeah.
need to be caught by surprise. Like, expect the transition. Expect it. You may not know what's going to cause the transition, but you know it's going to happen. And then establish healthy communication patterns so that when it does happen, you don't have to, like, how to handle that with your words and not just your feelings. And
Yeah.
and so I
Mm.
think that is very,
Mhm.
very important as we think about what it looks like to transit and to handle relationships and big transitional moments. So as we
Yeah.
move to the fourth quarter, we kind of see like they didn't do that well, and we kind of see the fruit of what that looks like.
Yeah, and I think it's also interesting, and as I don't know why I'm into transition phases right now, but I think what as we go into the fourth quarter, kind of the theme is the thing that Quincy has slowly divorced or slowly begins to like break away from, like she's getting closer to,
Yeah,
right? And so like they as a couple, which in the third quarter they do end up breaking
they're
up,
good.
like Quincy, goes, enters into the draft. Monica is like, and he was like, I got a lot going on right now. You obviously don't have time for it. It's like,
He's doing
all
a
right,
lot. He's
okay.
it's like it's a lot.
But again, his feelings was hurt and it was
I
weighty.
get it.
And I get it. It was more than just his parents and his dad. It was him.
Yeah.
Everything was tied up in understanding that relationship. But as we move to the fourth quarter, we see Monica like killing it in basketball. She's in Spain
Yeah.
now.
Overseas.
She got her hair out now and some curls, you know.
Damn.
Because again, but aesthetics of the movie are
Fair
important.
fair point.
Like in high school, she had them straight backs. The moment she took her hair down, it was like, oh wow, she's beautiful, she's amazing,
Right.
right? Then we go to college. She had that little ponytail all the time,
Right.
right? Now we're grown.
Yeah.
Now we got grown woman hair. It looked like and who
Way.
I want to know who was doing her hair in Spain,
Can I
like who
can I say this thing about the ponytail? I ain't gonna lie, and I'm just not clicking. It's not clicking for me. I think that's
that was you.
yeah. I think that's where I felt like, oh, I could do that. Monica did it. I could wear a ponytail. Anyway, go ahead. It's fine. It looks
Y'all, do y'all know no, 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 because we got to take a moment. Do y'all know how long
I'm just saying.
it took us to get? Ruth didn't have a ponytail; she had a clip.
Okay.
When Ruth found the claw clip, oh, let me tell you something. That hair was wrapped
Oh,
every
yes.
day,
Yes, it was.
every day. But
All
anywho,
that I just had to make that point. Like,
I didn't realize until this conversation the
felt
parallels,
that. Oh, there's
and this is this is intense. This is
yeah.
intense. I feel like I was like Lena,
Oh yeah.
I'm
Oh, good
like,
for sure.
you're
100%.
beautiful, okay?
100%. That's hilarious.
um, but anywho, so we get to the fourth quarter. Monica is killing it in Spain. She don't even understand what the people saying. She over there lacing up her ankle and tying her shoes, and this coach is giving the speech of a lifetime.
All right.
He's like, hey, we didn't win before, but we're gonna push for it now. This is our moment. We're gonna be
All in
great. And
Spanish. All in Spanish.
yeah, all in Spanish. All in Spanish. Monica's not paying any attention. She speaks to the one player who probably knew English, and she's like, "Hey, what did he say?" And he said, "Pass you the ball, girl." And so Monica's like, "Bet. That's all I need to know." So Monica is killing it, and is becoming, you know, FYI, this is before the WNBA.
This is before
So, like,
UNB.
for women to be great in basketball, you went to go play professionally overseas. Just FYI. And so Monica's killing it, and Quentin is struggling.
Yes.
All right. He entered into the draft prematurely
Yes.
because he had not been developed. Again, we go back to this theme of talent versus development. You are not good enough because you have a
Come
talent.
on.
You have especially when it hasn't been tested
Man, look.
at that level. You only played 1 year of college basketball. You get what I'm saying? And didn't finish. You entered the draft in the middle of your first college season. And so your talent, your natural gifts have not been refined. They haven't been through any fire. You haven't seen the testing of it yet.
Can I say this real quick? And
Interject. Yeah.
I wasn't I know we got to move on, but I do want to say, like, I'm living this right now with one of the young ladies in Angel Street, and she recently just said that she wants to do something different next year because she wants to make money, and she really wants to make money with singing, but really she's okay with any kind of job. So I started asking her these questions. I said, hey, okay, well, that's I'm okay with this. She has a great voice. She has a
Mm-hmm.
beautiful voice. Um and I asked her, I said, well, who's going to help you with that? I don't know. Do you have an idea of what you want to do? No, I don't know. It's all these I don't knows. And I said, hey, don't cut yourself off from a source of support and just go out there and try to do it yourself. You're not ready, right? Like,
Yeah.
to your point, if the talent isn't developed, you're not ready for this. You want to, but you have in your mind, like Quincy had in his mind, recognition, dollar signs, and the thing that I think I don't want for her that we saw with Quincy, people will pump you up and use you, and they will not care how it ends up for you. They're not going
Yeah.
to care. And so, yeah, you sound great. Oh my gosh, you have a beautiful voice. Come over here and do some with people who are really just using you. They're not trying to
Yeah.
develop you. They just gonna use you until they're done with you. And then they're
Yeah.
like, oh, okay, you really weren't who we thought you were. Right. And so just like this 16-year-old girl now she literally is like, oh man, please don't make that choice. I don't want that for you. You might have to, so you see, but it's a real thing, and you really you gotta understand, like, that young people with talent are gonna get faced with this, and they need
Yeah.
support to help them to maybe make a better decision, but also to be there when it probably isn't gonna work out the way they want.
But this goes back to the conversation we just had about coaching, though, right? Because his dad was the voice in his ear
Yes.
that was coaching him to greatness. And remember, his dad didn't even want him to go to
No.
USC. He was like, you go to
Yep.
Princeton.
Yep.
Like, you don't need basketball. You're more than just, a ball player. Like you can be more, you can have more. And so his dad was the voice in his ear that was coaching him. But when you break trust, right? And that's why it's so important to
Yeah.
emphasize that as the life of a leader also matters more than the gift, because
Yes.
leadership and pouring out knowledge and wisdom, those are gifts. But if you don't match that up with lifestyles, you will find yourself in a situation like his
That's
father.
right.
Now you can't speak to
Nope.
him peaceably.
No.
Now he's discarding everything you said. And we oftentimes don't realize how we become stumbling blocks to people because we think our lives are our own.
Yeah.
Right? Your life is not yours if you have committed yourself to the service of being somebody else's voice of wisdom, reason, knowledge, experience, whatever. You have now obligated yourself to live in a way that magnifies what you're teaching
That's
them
correct.
and not minimizes it.
Yes.
And so Quincy minimized it. He minimized everything his dad had ever said to him. His dad prized education, he minimized it. And he maximized what he knew would ultimately bother his father.
Mhm.
Anyways, we do gotta talk about this relationship because it is love and
Yes, it
basketball.
is.
And so going back to Monica. So Monica finally she ends up playing with one of her friends, Sid, and they in the playoffs. Monica wins, and they out to eat, and her friend is like, "You ain't hollering at none of these men." And Monica's like, "No, I don't talk to none of them," because she's stuck.
Yeah.
All right, and that's what I want to talk to
Oh,
us
Lord.
today about. Okay. Monica in the fourth quarter of her life, all right, is still stuck
That hit
on this man
you.
from high school
There's
and
there's
college.
something
Okay.
there's
And,
that cut sound like for you, Quita, right back there.
and no, because I listen, and Ruth Abigail knows, and we ain't gotta go too deep. In this case, I was Monica. Okay. Listen. Okay, listen, and we not. I know we be transparent on here, but I'm
Yeah,
a hold some
maybe
today.
not so
Okay.
we'll hold that.
I'm a hold it. I'm a hold it in the road right now but I will say it is so easy to get stuck on what you were trying to make great in your past,
Mm,
and it's really because you don't believe anything else better will
that's
come.
correct.
You don't believe that, and you got to think about it, this was a woman who had only ever dated one man, and it was her next door neighbor.
Man, that's crazy.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
She didn't even believe she was beautiful
Yeah.
until he touched her.
That's oh shoot. That's
You
really
get what I'm
Mhm.
saying? Like she didn't she had waited for so long for him to be the one to validate her, to make her feel feminine and special and loved and wanted. And when she finally got there, I don't think she realized that that was what she became fixated on. Was that this is the man that made me feel worthy.
Mm,
And when he left, she couldn't find her sense of worth anymore. She fell out of love with basketball.
yeah.
But it really wasn't basketball that she fell out of love with. It was the idea that she lost what she thought was the best thing she could ever have.
Yeah. That's right.
She fell out of love with basketball because she had connected it to him.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. That's it.
And so it's I think about another movie that I really, it's one of those movies you watch once and you literally never need to see again.
Sure.
Okay. It's what is it? For color girls
Oh
only,
Lord,
when the
yeah.
rainbow's
Yeah.
not, you watch it
Yeah.
once and then you're
I
like,
can't. Yeah.
never
Yeah.
again. Never again. But there is a poem in there
Mhm.
that I think, is it was Loretta Devine in that
I
movie?
think so.
I think
I
it was
think
Loretta
so.
Devine doing the poem, and it's a "Give Me Back My Stuff." I want all my stuff back, and it's actually written. That movie is written from a play,
Mhm.
and it's give me back my stuff. And I'm telling you, you have left pieces of yourself in these past relationships, and it's called a soul tie, friends. Soul ties are made in different ways. You can have emotional soul ties
Mhm.
because she had in her soul tied basketball and this man together.
Yep.
Tied her identity, her self-worth, her understanding of who she was and who she could be with this man. And it's like, honey boo boo, no.
Mhm.
No. And as a middle adult, you really have to get to a point where you evaluate these relationships that you still pining after and say, what got tied up on the inside of me that I need to let loose? Because it don't work the way it worked in this movie,
Yeah.
friends.
No.
You don't go knock on his window and say, I want to play you for your heart.
No.
Okay? Absolutely not.
No. We're not doing
First of
that.
all, you bet not.
Yeah.
Hear me when I
2
say
weeks before his wedding, she
2 weeks.
she gonna say, I'm still in love with you. I want to play you for your heart." And it's just, and then she loses. And so
Lost. I'm just saying. If you get to that point, girl, you should have been practicing. And this man had a knee brace on,
right.
was determined. First of all, I mean, we can get it again. Y'all have heard these arguments on the internet, but any man who humiliates you
Right.
like that, and then like, first of all, how he changed his mind in 20 seconds?
He didn't
Like,
change his mind.
like
He
it's
wouldn't have played if he didn't really want her to win. He didn't change his mind. He wouldn't have played the
first of
game.
all, don't take me through the dramatics.
That's what he did.
Let's have a conversation. That was their problem. No communication. Okay. Just let's play. Play me for your heart. You know, didn't even talk.
No,
Just double or
double
nothing.
or nothing.
Oh,
Oh, good
oh,
Lord.
that's it. We back,
Yeah,
now
yeah,
happily ever after.
yeah.
Absolutely not. Communicate. Now, I'm not saying, here's what I'm not saying, and I don't want nobody to get stuck from this. Okay. I'm not saying that sometimes the thing from the past doesn't work out for your future. But if you have to reach back to get it,
Mm,
you ain't supposed to have it.
yeah.
If you have to become somebody that you was, if you have to think like how you used to think and act how you used to act
Mhm.
and do what you used to do to get it, then that's going to take you backwards and you're not supposed to have it.
Yeah.
Now, if it's somebody who has met you and they're in their future present self and they're reaching forth and you're reaching forth and we can reach forth together, okay. But reaching back to get something will always pull you backwards. It'll pull you backwards in your mindset. It'll pull you backwards in your development. Now, don't let this movie fool you. It is fiction.
It's fiction.
It is fiction. Going back and getting them old things, for me, Ruth Abigail, after I was done talking to somebody, I was never the person that deleted the numbers, deleted the photos, I was holding on. I
Oh,
was like,
yeah.
oh, but that's memories, that was part of my story. No, I now believe in the
I was
purge.
always
Okay.
the one. I deleted and then if it ever rekindled, I'd have to put them back. Like they were gone. I was done. Like I
Listen.
was done, but I wasn't really done. You know what I mean? Like and
Yeah.
so, but I made myself think I was. But yeah, I mean you got yeah.
Listen, she never purged.
No.
That man was on her mind the whole time. When that man broke his
She
ACL,
said I got to go.
she said, bye,
I
Spain.
gotta go.
I got to go see him. And
I
that's
gotta
when
go.
she found Tyra Banks,
Oh
who
Lord.
the worst actor. I'm
I'm
sorry. We love you, Tyra.
dang,
Thank you for
clean up,
everything
man.
you've
Shoot,
done.
you know.
You know she was terrible in that
Oh,
movie. You know.
she bothered me entirely.
Oh,
It's
absolutely.
just, but maybe it's just her character. I don't know if it's like, but she played a very annoying character very well.
Yeah, yeah. Which is why nobody liked her. Even Monica's mama was like,
Like,
you mean the flight attendant? Like, we was over
yes,
it.
we
Like, Tyra, please. And Tyra, where you at when your man out here playing another woman for his heart?
were.
Where
She's at her house because she on a flight. Um, yeah. So, all right. Um,
Listen, main takeaways. Okay. What did we learn from first quarter, Ruth Abigail?
we learned that you have to pick. Sorry, we unlearned that you have to pick who one or the other as far as who you want to be, right? You get to be who you fully are, and it doesn't have to look just one way in throughout your life. It'll look different ways in different seasons.
Yes.
Ah,
Quarter two. All right. The thing that we unlearned is the idea that your talent will carry your ambition to the finish line over your development, right? You have to begin to prize who you're becoming over what you can do.
And in quarter three, we unlearned that relationships will stay the way they start and that we have to learn how to properly transition and maintain healthy relationships through transitions by expecting it and developing healthy communication habits when they get to difficult points
Yeah. All right. Quarter four. All right. Listen, friends, get
and
unstuck. Okay.
unstuck.
We learned right that whatever has you stuck from the past is preventing you from getting what God has for you in your future.
And there you have it, folks.
Loving basketball, friends.
Love and basketball.
Loving basketball the unlearned way. Okay.
Absolutely, absolutely. So we are going to be doing this for the rest of the summer. We'll have several other movies. You'll have to tune in to see what else we're talking about. But So we are, what is it? What do we have to tell the people? What do we tell the people?
Like, share, and
There we
subscribe,
go.
please.
Like, share,
All
subscribe.
right, friends, listen. All right, this is a community. We're building community. We have some amazing things coming for you guys. So many great things on the horizon. Please, please, please hit the like button. Share it with a friend, okay? If you too have, you might not have written an essay about it like myself, right? But
But
if
if you're
you
so inclined,
have,
you feel free to do that. Go
listen, listen.
ahead.
If you connect with what we're talking about, if you connect with the movie, listen, hit us in the comments. I listen, I'm ready to squabble. Let's talk about it. Right? No, but for real, we want to chat with you guys. And yeah.
Yeah. All right. So let's keep unlearning together so that we can experience more freedom. We'll see y'all next week. Peace.